Welcome to the last game of the evening. We're on King Sejong Station, spawning to the top left-hand corner in purple, playing Zerk for Germany and my risk. It's Miezekotze. And to the bottom right-hand corner in orange, playing Protoss for Team Rival Gaming and the US. It's Koshkii. So let's see what these two ladies can put up. I think in the last season, if I recall correctly, both players had to face off each other very early on as well. Maybe even also the first week or the second week. I think even in the first week as well. I think they also kicked off the first season. And I think Koshkii won 3-0 last time around. Miezekotze wasn't really in shape back then, but she has been playing a lot throughout the last season and has come back to her former glory. So I think we can expect a very exciting match out of these two. And there we see the Gateway Scout by Koshkii now, not by Poison anymore. So while Miezekotze just goes for the bread and butter build of Zerk, the hatch first into gas into pool, nothing all too uncommon. And as we will see later on in the game as well, I'm sure her phenomenal passive scouting, Miezekotze always on spot with her Overlord scouting. Ooh! Koshkii even being mean and spraying that cardboard star right inside Miezekotze's base. How dare you! How cheeky! That's just the first time I think I've seen a player making use of that new little gimmick that was added with patch 3.7. So nicely done there. So she's already given a little gift and a threat, leaving it right behind in Miezekotze's base. Quite nicely done. I really have to look out how you actually do this because I haven't done it myself yet. But it's a fun little gimmick, I think. So, yeah, as said before I got interrupted by Koshkii's treat here, Miezekotze is well known for her very, very good passive scouting, where she just spreads out creeps, spreads out overlords, spreads out zerglings, gets these Alnaga watchtowers. So usually her awareness of the map is just magnificent. And I think we're going to see that once more. So Miezekotze gets the first scout, sees the first few buildings, sees that something is already in production, will probably assume that it's going to be an adept, because adepts are just the go-to unit early on, while taking the hatchery between the 2.5 and 3 minute mark, as we were already talking about early on in games. Twilight Council already down for Koshkii, going immediately into the Resonating Glaives. So probably wants to go for very heavy adept pressure. And then we might be seeing what Azelis was actually trying to do against Ryza, not really executing it as well. So maybe we will see how this push is actually supposed to look when Koshkii just throws it out. Robotics facility, probably just for the reinforcement warp prism, so that she will have the possibility to warp in even more adepts across the map without a big problem. Yeah, and like I said, here we see it, the overlords just being spread out everywhere. Another overlord just flying in, trying to get another good scout off. Will eventually see that the resonating, or that some upgrade is being researched inside the Twilight Council. But yeah, maybe with another good scout, seeing all the gateways and everything else, she will probably be able to tell what her opponent is up to. I mean, it could be everything. It could also be blink. It could even be charge, which we see very rarely here. So that actually makes it a little bit more difficult for a Zerg player to predict what's headed their way. Because, yeah, actually all three upgrades are kinda okay in the early game, if you just hit the timing correctly. I mean, Resonating Glaives is the most likely, the most common. But even a lot of speed lots with charge can just shrek your army. And they actually need kind of a different answer towards, because against the Resonating Adepts, against the Resonating Glaive Adepts, roaches work quite well. But against the speed lots. Roaches are not that good actually if you really manage to pump out enough of them. So yeah, you actually need kind of a specific answer for all of these researchers. So it's a bit guessy if you can't really see what your opponent has been producing early on. So also the Dark Shrine right behind it. So if your push just shouldn't deal enough damage, or you just need some extra damage right afterwards, the DTs will be there, so very early on. Okay, Koshkii actually loading up most of the units into Warp Prism, so it seems as if she just wants to lure most of the units towards her third base and then maybe even flying into the main base. Miezekotze now has to retreat completely, has a lot of units in place anyway, so it seems as if Koshkii might not be able to really deal that amount of damage she really wants to deal. Warps in more adepts and will probably be able to now take out a lot of drones here, but Miezekotze reacting right away, just putting away almost all of them, only losing 4 or 5 drones in the process. Seems to be quite a lot, but according the gravity of the push, it's actually kind of okay to lose 4 drones here that she can easily replace after the push has been cleared. But of course the push is not over yet, so Koshkii just dropping at the third base once more, killing even more, and now we're at a part where it actually starts hurting, because losing 11 probes or 11 workers there is actually really big damage already been dealt. And Koshkii just playing the good old if you move here, I move there game. But finally the queens are in position, will now eventually be able to take out that Warp Prism if Koshkii actually stops it, and she does. Should have probably just tried to fly out completely and then maybe come back later. Now she has just sacrificed the rest of her army units, and the aggression will end for now, but not before she took out 14 drones 14 drones in completion. 40 drones totally. That's what she got there. In the meantime, yeah, the push just actually cost Koshkii a lot of resources. Has not been able to take a third base in the meantime, although she really had the resources there. I think that would have actually just made this thing more powerful here. Maybe she actually expected the push to end the game, but yeah, I think this is really a grave mistake not having taken a third base behind it. I mean, of course, it's aggression. You have to micro a lot of stuff. It's really difficult to do in the meantime, but yeah, like I said, I mean, this whole attack would have probably been way stronger with a third base behind it. Now she's really all in. I mean, she managed to deal okay-ish damage with the push she did, but now she's just up against a fully saturated Miezekotze here, who can just produce a lot of units there. Nice little micro here with the Warp Prism, just unloading and unloading these Immortals to dish out the most amount of damage, but Miezekotze actually doesn't really care about these units, actually just wants to trade a lot of them to keep the army of Koshkii small in order to make her follow-up a little bit stronger there. Going into the Mutalisks, but it's only going to be 3 Mutalisks out. We also have an Archon in the mix, so depending on what Koshkii warps in next, it might be kind of problematic for the, yeah, especially with more Archons incoming, the Mutas won't really help out. And Miezekotze, it seems as if Miezekotze has just sacrificed a few too many units there in the attempt to keep the army in check. With a good surround, though, she should still be able to hold this, but of course the next warp-in is just around the lane. Losing the third one is really something she could actually not have allowed to happen. I mean, now she needs to get in and has to just hope that she will be able to kill the army, but maybe it's just too much Protoss there. The Archons just killing off all of the Mutas there. The rest of the army dies to the Lots and the Archons, and yeah, the Speed Lots even now. So yeah, it seems as if Koshkii has just broken her opponent. Army supply is almost even, but Koshkii can just reinforce her units right at Miezekotze's doorstep there. The rest of the army will just move in. Not enough firepower left for Miezekotze to stop that push, and it seems as if Koshkii has just broken it. Okay, and there we go. If you really want to play an all-in and you don't want to have a third base right from the get-go, then go with it, and it makes your push even stronger, because the resources will just get spent anyways. Yeah, and that's it. Miezekotze just trying to defend as best as she can, pulling the drones, but she's only on 2 bases anyways, and she doesn't have any remaining forces. That should be it. GG, and Koshkii takes the first game. Welcome back to the second map of the series. We're on Frost, spawning to the bottom right-hand corner in purple. It's our Zerg player Miezekotze. And to the top right-hand corner in orange, playing Protoss, it's Koshkii, who's just won her first game with a very strong 2-base attack, eventually overwhelming Miezekotze's forces, who had to make a very tough decision there when she attacked Koshkii's army upwards that ramp, probably thinking she just would have had enough in order to take down everything and thus crushing the attempt to push her opponent, or the attempt of her opponent to push her. But then eventually it just wasn't barely enough, and the follow-up push just killed her because she wasn't able to reproduce enough units in time in order to keep the follow-up push in check. So Koshkii already building the first few buildings down at the entrance towards her natural ramp. That's pretty common on Frost because you don't really need that many buildings in order to seal everything off. And the rush distances on that map are pretty long anyways, so it's pretty safe to go for the buildings on the bottom of the ramp plus a nexus right behind it. Interesting setup here. Koshkii just uses the gap on top to leave open. A lot of people just use it down here. Actually, I have to say that this is kind of a not that bad decision. I mean, you can always reinforce your forces from up here, from the high ground, if the opponent's forces just try to get through this one unit that's sitting here. It's actually easier to defend because a lot of units will just stand close to the ramp or will even be on the high ground. So yeah, actually I like this setup a lot. Don't really know why not more people are actually doing it. So, hatchery already in position for Miezekotze, going for very early expand after probably not really knowing what her opponent was doing, but just guessing that with the standard meta game, Koshkii would be going for an early base on the bottom of the ramp. So she just started with an early hatch herself, now finally getting into speed, but it doesn't really matter that it's a little bit delayed or later than usual because she just had to produce this hatchery first because she could finally just spend resources into that speed. But she doesn't actually need it. I mean, assuming that her opponent was going into an early Nexus build anyways, she just doesn't need that many forces early on in order to defend herself. So Koshkii just set up all of her defenses. The Adept is in place and blocking that little gap. She has the pylon in position and the mothership core as well that can always photon overcharge. So feeling safe and secure right now, she just can go into her tech, producing a warp prism already, which might be her infamous immortal play. So we'll see if another immortal comes out right afterwards, or if it's again just going to be some sort of adept and maybe DT pressure later on. So we'll see what next comes out of that robotics facility there. In the meantime, Miezekotze not really aware of anything. I mean, she didn't really have the time to scout anything, just sends in the Overlord right now. It will probably eventually get in because Koshkii will just not be able to have a unit in ready in time, and there's no photon overcharge or no pylon for photon overcharge available. Oh, actually nicely done there by Koshkii, just throwing down that pylon. Definitely wants to keep Miezekotze from scouting here. So let's see how much information Miezekotze actually gets. There's the charge this time around, but the Overlord doesn't see the Robo producing anything. So like I said, it's the immortal drop into charge lots into later on DTs. We've seen that build quite often out of Koshkii, and also some of the FSL players copying it from her. So it's a very strong timing push, and it can kill a Zerg straight away if you're underprepared for it. I mean, seeing what Koshkii did there with the pylon and the photon overcharge, Miezekotze must suspect something, and she immediately produces a lot of links and also goes into a Hydra Den. So she definitely wants to have some damage output inside her units, maybe even hoping for a good surround and then the Hydras killing off the rest of the units. Hydras, of course, also good against the Warp Prism play. I think I'd really like some Spore Crawler somewhere, not only for the DTs, but also especially to help with keeping a Warp Prism in check, because it's still a little bit more difficult for a Protoss player to load and unload wherever she wants. when there's spore crawlers around, so I wouldn't mind that. But of course, it's resources that Miezekotze maybe doesn't want to invest at the moment. Not only the 75 minerals, but also the lost drone she has to sacrifice in order to build it. Okay, nice little scout there by Miezekotze, just knowing exactly where the attack is coming from. And this force will just crush this one. Koshkii will just has to retreat immediately using the mothership core, but may not be able to get it. I mean, okay, the Hydralisk this time around just focus fire down, get actually everything. Whoa, significant win there for Miezekotze. Disastrous engagement there for Koshkii. Was obviously not thinking that Miezekotze would be that well prepared against that push, but that was just devastation, ladies and gentlemen. And I have to say it already, this looks very grim for Koshkii right now. I mean, defending that push that easily with 3 bases already out. I mean, Miezekotze just has all the possibilities she wants now. She can just gather more army, trying to break through Koshkii's forces, which is actually a very tight wall here, quite interesting, and the Dark Shaman just finishes right in the nick of time, so she might be able to hold it. Or Miezekotze could just easily retreat and just safely drone up and come back later for a little time, because there's no chance for Koshkii to take a 3rd base whatsoever. GG, well played, and this is it. Miezekotze takes the 2nd game and ties the series 1-1. Welcome back to Frozen Temple. Spawning to the bottom right-hand corner in orange as Protoss is Koshkii. And to the top left-hand corner in purple playing Zerg, we have a Miezekotze, who's probably going to expand. And then into gas pool. Standard opening. Koshkii, on the other hand, already throws down the pylon. Let's see if it's going to be a Nexus first build. Very daring. No. Just going for the safe one. Building a gateway first. I mean, that's actually more suitable to Koshkii's style. She likes to be aggressive very early on. So you always want to have an early aggressive potential, and that can only be guaranteed by building an army structure early on, which is the gateway. If you want to be a little bit more aggressive later on, you might as well go into the Nexus first, but like I said, it's not that common to Koshkii's playstyle. Might actually be interesting to just evaluate a few of these styles for her, maybe just trying to get an early Nexus out. But of course, you always have to be aware that Miezekotze can throw in a cheese here or there, or at least a lot of early lings, and then sometimes you just want to have a little bit more capability of defending an early ling push. So, like I said, the gateway is just the safe route every time. So that's what Koshkii is doing here. And having the Nexus a little bit later, but it doesn't really matter since Miezekotze's base is also, yeah, this time around I was just keep telling you that she would probably go into the bread and butter build, but she didn't. Actually just went into early speed and into the early pool. So pool before hatch. That's why her hatch now is actually as late as Koshkii's Nexus. So, but of course now she will have the aggressive potential already. We'll see what it's going to be if she wants to go into drop play, or if she it seems as if she wants to go into drop play because that Overlord is already moving into position. No. Okay, it's just a scouting Overlord, so it seems as if she doesn't want to go into drop play, or maybe she wants to do it with that Overlord over here. Seems to be more like a Baneling bust, but then she would need a Baneling nest anytime soon. She just has enough gas for that. So if she really wants to go for a bust, we should see a Baneling nest drop down in just a few seconds. Otherwise, I don't really know. Maybe she just wants to have the early speed out against some adept pushes. Maybe she was just scared of some sort of cheese play by Koshkii because she's already lost against Koshkii's 4-gate at that position over here. But yeah, this time around, I mean, it was a bit wasteful. Of course, that's easy to say now. As a player, you just have to make that decision before you actually have all the information necessary to make the decision. You just have to make a little guess at that point in time when you go either early hatch or early pool. You just have to try to read your opponent's mind and see what is most likely coming. Because with an early spawning pool, it's of course easier to hold off a 4-gate that's being proxied. But of course it will slow you down economically if your opponent doesn't do it. But like I said before, you have to make that decision before you actually get the information. That's what's a little bit annoying about Legacy of the Void, that you just don't have the time anymore in order to scout your opponent to make not a little bit more than only an educated guess, because it's just impossible to get all the necessary information before your resource marker just hits the timing point where you have to decide what building you're going to throw down. So, and like I said, I mean, these links are just not dealing any more damage. I mean, they just keep Koshkii inside her base. They will also help her to maybe intercept a few units that might walk out. But in the meantime, Koshkii is just doing the same build again as she did on the second map. We have the Warp Prism already out with another Immortal incoming while one is already loaded in. Charges in place again. So yeah, same game once more. Seems as if this time around Koshkii just wants to make it work. And we'll see if it's going to work out or not. Miezekotze respawned this time around, not the same as before. So it seems as if she's not that certain what her opponent is doing this time around. She already has the third base down. She has seen the robos though. So, she kind of should know what's coming. Don't really know why she changed her plan. She actually even has seen the Twilight Council there, but not the gateways that have just been thrown down and will just finish any moment. Doesn't even know of the Mothership Core and the Warp Prism yet. I mean, the map is pretty wide, so it's not really that easy to see everything. But Ling just barely doesn't get the scout, now sees at least the Mothership Core. So again, something that should help Miezekotze to know what's going on. But there's the first warp in already. Interesting placement here with the Immortals. While unloading, only one Immortal had enough space to just get unloaded over here, and the other one was automatically just unloaded over there. Okay, and finally moving in. So this time around, Koshkii just has the better forces here. Not enough forces for Miezekotze there, especially nothing against the Warp Prism here, which is really the biggest problem for her right now, because the Warp Prism, believe it or not, is actually the biggest threat in here, not the army units themselves. Losing the third base is already a big blow, and she still just doesn't have a lot of units here. The Ravagers will probably not help out that much, especially against the Speedlots over here. Immortals dishing out damage from behind. Mothership Core is going to die, but it doesn't really matter because Koshkii doesn't want to retreat anyways, it seems. Or does she? Okay, now she does. But she has finally managed to deal the damage she wanted to do. Killing off the third base, really important for her, especially for a follow-up push she definitely wants to have. And this time around she even has a second Warp Prism just in case the first one should die, which tells us absolutely everything, and that she never even plans to take a third base. She wants to win that game right here and now with as much aggression as possible. And, well, I have to say a little bit lucky for her, or just unlucky for Miezekotze, because this time around she was not reading the game as well as the game before. She just doesn't have the best units against the Zealots here. But like I said, the biggest problem just being the Warp Prisms, in this case plural even, that she just can't take down. And with a reinforcement 7 at a time, or 6 in this case because it's only Stalkers warping in at a time, there's just no way for Miezekotze to keep reproducing enough units in order to stop this from happening, especially not with mostly roaches spawning that will just get shot down immediately by the Immortals alone. Not even talking about the roaches. I mean, almost every unit that Koshkii has here is just excellent against roaches. The Speedlots are very good against roaches. The Immortals GG, and Koshkii takes the third game for a 2-1 lead. So, welcome to New Gettysburg. Spawning to the bottom right-hand corner in purple, we have MyRisk's Miezekotze. And to the top, bottom left-hand corner in orange, we have Rival Gaming's Koshkii. Building the pylon. On top of the ramp. Yeah, we've already had that situation early on this evening with poison. It's almost suicidal trying to take an early base and an early wall off down here. The ramp is really, really wide. Plus, you also have the bridge that makes for a very short rush distance from one base to the other. So if a Zerg player should actually commit to early links, it's almost impossible to hold that third base early on, or to just hold the buildings you try to use to wall off. I mean, even if you get a full wall off, you just don't have any resources to build units, and you don't have the tech to build the units that can shoot across the wall in order to fend off. So you will just have a big wall that just gets nibbled away by the early links, and that's always a bit risky to do so. So that's why a lot of Protoss players just always wall off at top of the ramp just to be safe. And then after scouting, realizing, okay, my opponent is not going into some early kind of pressure, so I might as well just now take my base and then start the wall off down here, not wasting any more buildings up on that front, or just going for the wall off here just in case Zerglings break through and we have to evacuate that nexus, and then we will have a better position to easier defend. So, nice little scout here by Koshkii, just still checking for the third base, and again just spraying her little logo here, occupying this place for the Protoss Armada. Yeah, you may not expand here, this is Protoss territory. Nicely done there. So in the meantime, we just have the bread and butter build for Miezekotze this time around, just getting the speed as usual, sending in the first Overlord in order to get some scouting done. Not really getting that much information, but at least sees the assimilator and can get a little feeling for the gas timing. Just tries to scout more buildings maybe at the back of the mineral line, but there's none here. The building is just being produced over here, and it's another robotics facility, so maybe Koshkii just trying the same build once more. And there are the first few links crossing the gap. Quite interesting here that Koshkii has not decided to throw down a pylon on the bridge. That would just actually slow down the links a little bit. Okay, Mothership Core is there, so we'll be able to throw down a photon overcharge. Links have to run away for now, so this base is secure for now. In the meantime, that's quite interesting for Koshkii, of course. It's the 3-minute mark, and Miezekotze has not been taking a third base, is now going into a Roach Warren. So maybe we will see some Roach Ravager aggression out of Miezekotze, maybe even with the help of a Nidus Worm, but she hasn't transitioned into a lair yet, so that's actually quite interesting there. Don't really know what she's going at. I mean, she really managed to hold the Immortal push, the Immortal Charge Lot push, with the army composition she produced throughout the second game. So quite interesting that again she just wants to go into roaches, although it didn't really work out for her that well. Maybe she just expects another adept harassment and wants to be secure against that with the help of the roaches, but probably only a safety roach. No, actually there's 5 roaches in production. So quite interesting there. Maybe she really wants to waddle across the bridge and then just maybe break through a wall that's not even there. That's actually quite interesting. Koshkii not going for a wall at the natural ramp. This could backfire pretty severely later on, so we'll see how this is going to work out or not. Nice little overload positioning here by Miezekotze. Also keeps the island bases in check as well, because throughout the meta during the last few months, we had a lot of Protosses just going for the island maps and then transitioning into a heavy air armada build. Okay, there is the wall off. Okay, never mind. It's just a little bit uncommon to wall off that way. Most Protosses just try to use the ramp to wall off, because the ramp also gives them a little bit of advantage, because the opponent's units always have to move up a little bit in order to get high ground vision. Of course, that just doesn't matter if you have a Overlord with you or an Overseer as well. Okay, the anti-timing almost there, moving out with the Immortals there. Actually a little bit lucky here for Koshkii even, that she just was wanting to fly out with the help of the Warp Prism and the Immortals there. If the Immortals had been across the map right now, maybe we would have faced a base trade scenario there. But it seems as if Miezekotze might just barely be able to deal not quite enough damage here. She just took out one pylon back here, which unpowered one of these gateways. But now, since the gateways are out, I think Koshkii should be really fine here with the next few weapons. Mothership Core just doesn't have energy, so maybe if Miezekotze actually breaks through that pylon here and gets inside the main base, this might be kind of critical here for Koshkii there. Okay, there the Lings run in. Oh, actually there's another gap here. It seems as if there's not only a gap over there, but a gap between the wall as well. So now finally the Lings get in. Of course they will get killed eventually, but not without taking down at least 5 probes there. Not as much as she might have really wanted to do. But yeah, more units crossing the map, but just only streaming in little by little. So it seems as if Koshkii will be able to defend for now. Miezekotze in the meantime taking a 3rd base, but it's really late. Doesn't really matter that much since Koshkii has not tried to take a 3rd base off her own. But of course now her scurry force is marching across the map. And the only thing that Miezekotze has right now is again Roach Ravager, but a lot more this time around, and Koshkii's army is a lot smaller. Koshkii should also not be able to take down a 3rd base, since it's, well, it doesn't even matter since it's not even done. Oh, even rushing into the forces with only a few units at a time before finally warping in. And yeah, this army gets crushed. No chance for Koshkii to warp in anything here, even losing the Mothership Core against the Queens. And now it's again full attack time for Miezekotze. She knows that she wants to end the game now. I don't really think she needs to end the game right now, but she is in some sort of advantage, but still, of course, wants to deal more damage. DTs are out, and we don't have any detection inside the base, so this is always the most annoying part. If you just realize, oh damn, I forgot detection, and this is DTs. This is always so annoying. Just realizing, oh cool, if this would have been like normal units, I would have easily crushed through it, but since it's DTs, now I have to full out retreat up to my own base. But yeah, that's DTs for you. I mean, you have to take care that you bring some detection with you in that case. But yeah, for Miezekotze, she was still on hatchery tech, so no lair tech even for her. And she now will have to wait for the lair to finish before she can finally morph in some overlords. Yeah, Koshkii of course cannot know that Miezekotze is that far behind with her lair tech, so she just morphs most of these DTs into Archons. And of course there's also a Spore Crawler here as well, so the DTs won't really deal that much damage. Again, just not enough army forces here for Koshkii. Koshkii has to retreat once more. She knows she desperately needs to deal some sort of damage towards her opponent, otherwise she will just pull away economically too far. But the army she has, and the she actually has a lot of minerals bank up there, will now just drop down due to the warp in. But whatever she warps in will probably just not be enough. Yeah, speedlots are pretty good against roaches, but with a little bit of stutter stepping and a few more reinforcements streaming out of 3 hatches, I think Miezekotze should be able to hold this. Tries to take down the warp prism with the help of the Queens, but just barely does not get it. Still, it doesn't really matter. The most important part for Miezekotze is right now to keep her opponent from pushing, to just keep her back while she tries to saturate her 3rd base, and of course also reproducing a few army units in order to keep the next push. So Koshkii needs a success, and very, very soon. A significant success, otherwise she will just fall behind even more. She actually is. She's falling behind minute by minute. So unless she manages to deal a significant blow within the next 2 minutes, then it's going to be GG. So let's see, another warp prism as well. So yeah, this one is pretty low, doesn't want to risk losing her reinforcement possibilities. So okay, nice little scout over there. So Miezekotze now knows where her opponent is coming. Kind of an okay-ish position here for Koshkii to engage. She just has to face a few units. Not all of these units can fire right as well as she wants them to. That's a really strong force there. The Zealots actually getting close to the army units, just ripping through most of these roaches. A little bit is still left for Koshkii here, and she might even be able to just warp in units once more. So drones even have to be pulled right now. It seems as if Koshkii will just barely be able to break through. Okay, now retreat. Okay, Miezekotze now in a full retreat. 5 more roaches in production, but it seems as if this base is definitely going to fall. Oh, just barely not killing the third. Are you kidding me? No way. Is Miezekotze holding this with like 33 hit points? I think she is. Oh my god! Tell me this just didn't happen. No! I mean, very well for all the Miezekotze fans out there, but Koshkii, are you serious? Like focusing down the hatchery and all would have been okay. Oh, so unfortunate. My god. This is woo. I mean, this would have probably just sealed the deal. I mean, losing this third hatch, it's not only the production value from that hatch, it's also the possibility to just resaturate that base once the push has been finally cleared. I mean, Koshkii is very desperate now. Like I said, this was the kind of significant damage she needed to deal. She was almost dealing it, and then the hatchery just barely got saved. Oh my god. I mean, it's still in danger of being killed, but now her army forces are very, very strong again. And I think this is an army that can be crushed by Miezekotze's forces right now. Immortal just moves back only a few more zealots that can be moved in. Koshkii is almost broke on her 2 bases that are almost mined out. I mean, that's what I brought. GG, well played. And Miezekotze just barely ties up that game 2-2. Welcome to our 5th and final map on Apotheosis, playing as Protoss and spawning to the top left-hand corner in orange. It's Koshkii. And to the bottom right-hand side in purple, playing Zerk, it's Miezekotze. Ooh, and Koshkii sending out the proxy probe here. No pylon inside her own base. So I'm really curious what this is going to be. Is she going to go for her infamous 4-gate? It seems very likely, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, 1 pylon being planted down. Just because she needs it to unsupply block herself. So seems as if she hasn't really been practicing this kind of build because it's already a little bit edgy. This normally comes to show you that a player has not been practicing this specific kind of build on a specific map because the timings are just a little bit off. You're not really aware how long it's going to take for the probe to come, and there they are. 1, 2, 3, and the 4th one. But there's already some clicking. No! No, Miezekotze, what are you doing? There was already some clicking happening over here. She might have just barely seen it. Are you kidding me? Oh, there it is, the 4-gate, just barely unscouted. I've already seen the marker clicking over here. If the drone really had went out that far, it should have seen the last remaining gate. But now, Miezekotze is totally unaware, preparing her own little gold-based cheese, so she might actually be able to hold it with the resources from the gold base if she just transitions early on. Then there will also not be that many drones back at the blue minerals, so she might even actually it kind of might help her. So a little bit late with the transfer here. So first 4 zealots are already in the making. And speed is on the go, but of course she's just now starting to saturate her base. No lings are in production. First few lings now, but she's still totally unaware. Koshkii just now moving in with a probe. Okay, that's not all too uncommon. Maybe the Overlord seeing the angle, the probe is just coming in. Maybe Miezekotze might expect something. It's pretty unlikely. Koshkii just checking where the base is, so sees now that it's at the gold base. Yeah, don't really know what she thinks about that. I mean, 4 or 5 zealots are already walking across the map. Of course, reaching the gold is a little bit longer. No, not really. Even splitting up her zealots, sending 2 inside the main base, most of them just going towards the gold base, which is pretty unprotected already. Okay, zealots will just get the queen here, so less lava production for Miezekotze, and she also had to lose a lot of mining time, transferring her drones back to the main base. Ooh, even getting into an early hatchery. Speed is not even done yet. We only have a few links out with 6 more to come, but it's so many zealots already in the base, so even when the links spawn, they just will not be able to surround these zealots anytime soon. I think actually she has to almost give up that base over here, maybe trying to resaturate and revitalize that base over here, but the zealots are already in position as well. Koshkii just producing so many units very close to Miezekotze's base, and it seems they are dropping down to 20, 60, 15 supply. It doesn't matter anymore. There's only drones to fight these zealots, and they won't just do the trick. Koshkii has just overwhelmed her opponent with a 4-gate cheese that hit Miezekotze totally unprepared. GG, and 3-2 win for Koshkii.